the goal is to kill as many people as possible, because the world can't sustain 8 billion people. So you're trying to create as many conflicts as possible.
We've all struggled with the thought of, how is the Antichrist ever going to rise with the advent of Islam? Islam believes in global dominance. So the doctrine of Islam doesn't jive with the rise of the Antichrist. You can't have two. Plus, the Jews are...
Even the Trump administration cannot explain why they're at war in Iran right now. And I mean, like, the Epstein file seems to be as good of a reason as anyone else can figure out, so stop the war.
Welcome to the sacrificed.
Tawhid, it is actually worth just repeating what you just said. It's 8:30 a.m. in Tehran. It's supposed to be daylight, yet you look like you're broadcasting at night. That is not nightfall. That is a thick cloud of smoke that's enveloped the capital, Tehran. That is extraordinary, and that is a result of the attacks on the oil refineries there.
It is like a scene from the apocalypse, flames pouring into the night sky over Tehran after Israel struck 4 separate oil facilities around the city. Benjamin Netanyahu had promised many surprises to come, and these strikes were certainly one of them. Imagine being here when a spill from one of the depots explodes along the drains lining a street. The fires burning long into the night.
Apocalyptic scenes as smoke and flames filled the skies of Tehran, as people stopped on the side of the road to see just the aftermath of these Israeli strikes. Today, people on the ground in the Iranian capital describing it as raining oil, as these droplets that were taken into the sky started to rain down on the city below.
The question now becomes, if you look at historical examples, air attacks alone, air power alone has not historically led to regime change. Will air power alone, will attacks from the air be able to break up that network that I talked about, exert enough pressure on the regime without having to use ground forces? And of course, we're seeing that the ground force option is not being taken off the table. It's not being discussed very, very much, but it's certainly something that's going to be in the calculus over the next weeks, because in my opinion, we are very much in the beginning phases of this campaign, and I think it's going to last a long time longer.
What they told me recently was, and I put this in writing to the Pentagon in 2012 when I told this, okay? One thing she told me was, when you see Iran and Israel exchanging missiles, and I saw it, the way she tells me is a vision of, I see it like a living picture screen. I could see the rockets flying. Then all of a sudden, orbs appeared out of the ocean and everywhere. And I told the government, if this happens, the orbs are going to appear and wake people up and stop it. That's what she told me. It was this April date.
April 2026.
Yeah.
Okay, update y'all. There's no siren going on right now, and yet there's these things in the sky blowing up. Pretty sure they're either missiles or drones. Either way, we've seen them blow up in the sky, multiple of them. very, very close to us, actually. So I was just saying that it was very quiet, and it's not quiet.
We're seeing them like blowing up in the sky.
We're not really sure what it is, but I'll put the video here, and you guys can see. Jesus Christ! Look! Over there! Oh my God! Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not a star. Anybody would like to tell me what that is? Please let me know. Please let me know.
But usually it's like a couple of them.
No, that's definitely a... No! Oh, shit! Oh, wait.
Yo, there's loads of them, bro.
Wait. Look. Those are drones. I think those are drones, bro. I think those are freaking drones, bro. Bro, I think those are drones.
Just boom in the air.
No, boom. Yeah, no, these are not.
There's smoke all there now where that one just
No, these are the drones. These are drones.
Yo,
they were sending drones. They were sending drones, and I'm literally finna. What? Oh my goodness. Oh my God! Wait, did y'all? I think my camera just got that. Hold on. I gotta go back and look. Yeah. You saw it? Yes, I think I did. Oh my God! Oh shit! Shit! Guys! What the fuck? Oh my God! No. Oh my God! Stop!
Destiny, that's right.
Know that we're living in really dark times. Like, these times are dark. We just get different flavors of like darkness, and right now it's really spicy flavor of darkness that we're experiencing. And I feel like the only thing that I want to do is make art, and any time that I'm even out in the world, whether it's not even art, whether I'm just speaking, whatever I'm doing, I want to remind people that like we're more than like this BS that's going on. Like, humans are actually like deeply caring and empathic creatures. And I think sometimes we forget that, and we become distrustful and obviously, take everything with a grain of salt. But I feel like what my heart is trying to say is music brings us all together, and I want that to be more than a superficial thing and actually like reach into the bone.
Situation for the Antichrist is just about present. The Antichrist has to be able to rule the world. He's not going to rule through governance. He's going to rule it through economies, even though he'll have control of the governments too. There has to be a unification of the worldwide economy.
What has happened that needed to happen, and what still needs to happen?
Okay? What's really going on is not a financial war. What's really going on is not a material war, a military war. What's going on is a spiritual war.
De Niro's building a $1 billion studio. How is that going to make money? What's the business plan? Is it over 30 years? That's my question.
De Niro's 81, isn't he? Like, what? How old is De Niro?
But that's what I'm saying. In the rating system of Hollywood, PG-13, rated R, which rating is the most profitable?
I would say PG.
Wrong. It's G. The children's films that are animated stories like Cinderella are the most profitable in all of Hollywood, and yet they're 30% of the production. So why would the system make 70% of something that doesn't make as much as the 30%? Why? Because it's spiritual. Because the devil runs Hollywood, and he wants that negative 70% to teach your kids all these other things. But the 30%, which makes the most money, is happiness and loving your mom and dad, and they make the most money. Why would Hollywood make less of the most profitable?
Putin reveals to the world a secret that European has been hiding from African for more than a millennium, that Jesus was black.
Has opened its cellars to reveal remarkable paintings of Jesus dating back to the 1400s. Have you ever seen or heard of biblical icons where Jesus or the Virgin Mary have dark skin? Or even Abraham or King David? Then look beyond Europe. Russia has opened its vaults to reveal biblical icons featuring darker-skinned figures. In case this is making you wonder if Russia has its own twist on biblical figures, the answer is a no. This is not the case at all. This is, a matter of fact, as real as the untouched horizon of time. These icons aren't just artistic anomalies. These hold deep meanings of hidden shaded truths, sparking serious curious questions about history and faith, representation, and the unexpected corners of religious art. Pay close attention, amazing people. You are just about to hear it today, like it is, in this video. In the Bible that the Americans turned white when they told the stories to us. But Russians didn't get the memo. They went off for real history. Songs of Solomon. USA is also a great deceiver, and so many people inherit the wrong lesson from their great-grandparents and their parents, to the point where it's so deep that the lie is made true when the real answer is really just right there. But you never look, because why would you...
San Angelo in Rome is currently hosting an exhibition of 40 Russian icons that have left their country for the first time. They are pieces of art that were hidden after the October Revolution of 1917 in order to protect them from anti-religious destruction.
There's been so much debate going on around the world of late, bestirred by the unveiling of these black biblical icons. Some tend to think that the icons had blackened over time due to age, while others say that the blackness of the icons has nothing to do with age but are a measure of accuracy meant to depict the actual color of the skins of the people.
Well, there are assigned powers, according to the Bible, over nations. But gosh, I have to tell you something. We've all struggled with the thought of, how is the Antichrist ever going to rise with the advent of Islam? Islam believes in global dominance. So the doctrine of Islam doesn't jive with the rise of the Antichrist. You can't have two. Plus, the Jews are not going to accept a Muslim Messiah. They're going to accept a Jewish Messiah as the Antichrist. So if this is the collapse of Islam, remember, Raj, Islam has no promises. They have no Bible. It's a cult. And if that is the case, which it is, if Islam's dissolved, then that opens up the door, Raj, to the advent or the revelation of the Antichrist, which we don't know when he's coming. But we don't see the Antichrist and Islam in parity.
When Jeffrey Epstein died, who replaced him? And then you ask yourself, okay, who is Jared Kushner? And why is he involved in Ukrainian peace negotiations? Why is he an envoy to Israel on behalf of Trump? And why is he participating in the Iranian peace negotiations? Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are envoys who went to Ukraine to negotiate with Putin to end the war. They met with Zelensky to end the war. They are very close with Netanyahu. And then they represented Trump in peace negotiations with the Iranians. Who are these people? Right? Jared Kushner is a replacement for Jeffrey Epstein. And that all makes sense if you think about it that way. And so what are these guys trying to do? They're trying to fulfill eschatology. They're trying to position world events in a certain way that would accelerate the collapse of the world, which is what Jeffrey Epstein did. Remember, we only have at most 50% of his emails.
We only have at most 50% of his emails.
Sitting with Jared and sitting with Josh and finding out other pieces of information, I was like, wow, these guys might have really been holding Trump back and being very much a handler right then. They love to just look at me or look at Trump like we're so crazy and that they're the businessmen. So when I think about all of these things that Jared, somehow doesn't get enough credit for with his work, and what is it, his work in Israel or his work in Palestine? What is this? You know where he made these peace treaties? Where was that? Do you know the facts on this right here? So I'm like...
I think that was between Israel and some of the Arab nations.
I just think it was to make money. I don't know. Is that too heavy-handed to put on this platform?
No, that's your opinion. We're not in the censorship business.
Okay, thank you. And a couple days later, I found out that Josh Kushner had 10% of Skims.
Now, I'm not accusing Jared Kushner of being a human trafficker, obviously, but when you look at what Jeffrey Epstein was doing, and you look at what Jared Kushner was doing, sort of being a whatever you want to call it, right? Like a rainmaker, putting all these people at the table, trying to arrange scenarios to get certain results, working sort of with government, but also outside of government. Would it be completely crazy to say that Jared Kushner is working in an Epstein-like fashion to maintain certain relationships and to build other relationships and to increase the likelihood that certain outcomes happen on a global chessboard? Do you see Kushner as a figure like that, or am I overstating it?
I think one of the biggest scandals is what's hidden in plain sight. I think that, a story like the Epstein files and Jeffrey Epstein's relationships with all of these ultra powerful people, and, Ryan has done more reporting than anyone on the Israel connection on this. It captures the imagination, but part of why it's so damning is that it's indicative of something that isn't even a secret conspiracy. That what's hidden in plain sight is that the reason that we're at war against Iran right now is because of the way that the US political system is arranged. It's because of the sameness of policy that exists among the elites of the Democratic Party and the kind of most vicious elements of the Republican Party. This is an enormous indicator of the influence that Israel has over an issue as sensitive of the decision of a state to go to war, where you have, as you mentioned earlier, the Secretary of State mistakenly saying the quiet part out loud, that we did in fact go to war for Israel, and then he has to walk it back later, and then Trump has to concoct this ridiculous statement about how the US has been in a state of needing to preempt Iran for 47 years. But what's hidden in plain sight is in a way more damning than the Epstein files. It's that we have a system that produces the kinds of characters that are in power right now. That in the open you have Miriam Adelson being able to purchase American foreign policy and get it done. That you can have a Jared Kushner, and I think you're nailing it there. He is the fixer extraordinaire right now for the U.S. government as a whole, because Trump is the president. And the nexus of corporate power and government, the relationships with the Gulf countries, the relationships with Israel, the political interference around the world, and then the way that they have sort of conducted a coup d'etat in plain sight against the American Constitution, it's like beyond Dick Cheney's wildest dreams. Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld spent their entire lives playing by the wrong set of rules. They wanted to do this, but they made the huge mistake of actually believing they needed to follow the rules. Trump has shattered that illusion, and you don't have to read an Epstein file to see it. It's hidden. It's hidden nowhere anymore. It's just out in the open. And what do we have as an opposition? Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer. What are they doing?
Right.
Trump laughs at them. Trump's running the deck on these people.
I hope this war in Iran ends. These gas prices are too high, and kids are being killed for no reason. Even the Trump administration cannot explain why they're at war in Iran right now. And I mean, like, the Epstein file seems to be as good of a reason as anyone else can figure out. So stop the war. So we're going to keep an eye on it. We're always going to be there to help you. We cut the gas tax once. We brought it down permanently afterwards. So we're going to be there to help with the cost of living. But right now, Donald Trump is public enemy number one when it comes to our economy and the average person keeping your head above water. So, yeah, that's my hope, is that the worst.
Devastating and heartbreaking. Words that carry so much weight, but still are not enough to accurately describe what a Colorado family is going through tonight.
Their youngest child is dead. Another one of their children charged with their murder. Olivia Young joins us now after speaking with neighbors.
Yeah, Karen, this tragedy has just rocked this community, which is full of young children. Timberline Elementary is just a couple blocks away, and we have learned that that's where this 5-year-old went to school. Neighbors tell me they frequently saw him and his two brothers playing outside, but yesterday a neighbor says he walked by the home to see police cars and an ambulance.
On a typical Tuesday, this neighborhood is quiet.
It's been very safe, very family oriented.
But this week was anything but typical.
I see like all the police, the police cars, and I'm hoping nothing bad happened.
Something bad had happened. The Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office says a 5-year-old boy was killed at his home on South Jericho Way. Investigators believe that boy's 11-year-old brother is responsible.
Incredibly jarring and shocking and very emotional. Like I said, I have a little daughter of my own, and to hear that, I mean, it makes me pretty emotional.
The news is hard to absorb for neighbors, some telling CBS Colorado their kids played together.
It's something that, you would literally, as a parent, is probably your worst nightmare. At least for me, that was my first thought.
It's really shocking just to come home and see all this unfold.
Wednesday afternoon, deputies performed a grid search in the area behind the home.
It's definitely a wild sight. I mean, I went to take the dog for a run, and you got cops all looking for evidence, drones, and...
The 11-year-old is now in custody at the Foot Youth Services Center in Centennial. He faces first-degree murder charges.
My heart goes out to the family.
Really hope that, we could get together as a community here and support them and support all the people involved that were close to them as well.
Timberline Elementary emailed families today to inform them of the death of a kindergartner. The school will have additional mental health resources available for students tomorrow.
So authorities across the country are on a high alert after 2 crimes rocked the U.S., starting in Virginia. An ROTC student taking down a suspect who opened fire on a classroom, killing 1 person. The FBI, revealing sources, said that the suspect said Allahu Akbar before the shooting. Just hours later, a suspect rammed into a Michigan synagogue before exiting with a rifle, and what agents are calling a targeted attack. Security shot and killed him. Joining us now is James Galliano, Fox News contributor and retired FBI supervisory special agent. James, good to see you, brother. I just want to show you this growing timeline, and we're hoping that we can nip this in the bud. But March 1st, you had that bar shooting in Austin, Texas. Saturday, attempted bombing in New York City. And then Thursday, the synagogue attack in West Bloomingfield, Michigan. And of course, Thursday, the Old Dominion University shooting in Norfolk, Virginia. This is spanning across the country, and looks like most of all of these motivations are radical Islam.
Yeah, and LJ, I'll tell you, I think since 9/11, there's been some 53 plots that were either foiled by the FBI or law enforcement or successful in the United States involving radical Islamists. Look, this is the suicidal empathy we talk about all the time, where there just isn't a proper process to vet these people. As you pointed out, in those 4 attacks, either naturalized citizens or the children of naturalized citizens. I think this is absolutely an assimilation problem, and that's something that we've got to focus on in our country right now.
You know, James, you were one of the big guns here in New York with the FBI, and you know how hard it is to build a counterterrorism case. Were you shocked to learn that one of the perpetrators of this act was convicted of providing material support and was released early?
Yeah, should have gone to jail for 20 years, Lawrence, and I believe did somewhere in the neighborhood of 132 months. And again, it goes back to that suicidal empathy. The judge here decided that somebody that was tried and convicted of providing material support to ISIS deserved a second chance. And this was his second chance.
Somebody that was tried and convicted of providing material support to ISIS deserved a second chance. And this was his second chance.
So I got paid. My tithe is what? 100. So, man, I got to pay my daycare. They're going to kick my kid out. Here we go. All right. Also, I need to pay my phone bill because T-Mobile about to cut me off. Grocery. Ooh. My kid's hungry. Oh, the Lord. Oh. Here's the Lord. Here's your $100, Lord. Thank you. And then here's my mortgage payment. Now, you say, well, Pastor, that's good. That's not good. Now, see, here's the difference. I'm helping somebody right now, because if you just switch the order, you'll see some increase come. Most people do what I just did. Watch this. They gave a tenth to the Lord, but they didn't do it first. We gave him a tenth, but this is how you can give a tenth and not give it first. But the scripture says the first one is what? So I done gave my money to somebody, holy money. I done gave it to the phone bill people. And you only give the tenth first to somebody who can bless you. So let me y'all give me my money back. Give me that. Give me this. Give me this. Give me this. Give me this. Thank you. Give me. Thank you very much. Now, this is what should have happened. So who should I give to first? The Lord. Switch places with somebody, Lord. So it don't matter where the Lord is on this. What matters is if whatever comes out first belongs to who? Okay, so here you go, Lord. And so watch this now. As I begin to pay other things, and let's say now it looks like I'm coming up short, God is obligated at that point to supply all of my need because he's supposed to do that because I've honored him with the first.
When Jeffrey Epstein died, who replaced him? And then you ask yourself, okay, who is Jared Kushner? And why is he involved in Ukrainian peace negotiations? Why is he an envoy to Israel on behalf of Trump? And why is he participating in the Iranian peace negotiations?
The situation was very quickly approaching the point of no return, and the United States found it intolerable, in my opinion, based on what Steve and Jared and Pete and others were telling me, Marco, so involved, that I thought that they were going to attack us. I thought they would, if we didn't do this at the time we did it, I think they had in mind to attack us.
Whose face is on the temple coin for the third temple that's about to happen in Jerusalem?
King Cyrus and Donald Trump.
Who is King Cyrus?
King Cyrus is the Persian king who gave the right to Israel to rebuild their temple. So Trump is basically fulfilling that same role as King Cyrus did.
And did you know that the Israel Heritage Foundation gave Donald Trump the Prince of Peace Award after he brokered the Abraham Accords? And then again in 2023, they gave him the Crown of Jerusalem.
Well, Jared's the investor here. I'm not going to give you a percentage, but look, what we've seen the past week gives me great optimism the ceasefire is going to hold. And if we get from where we were a week ago to a long-term durable peace between Israel and Gaza, there are going to be hills and valleys. There are going to be moments where it looks like things aren't going particularly well. But given that, and given the history of conflict, I think that everybody should be proud of where we are today.
Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are envoys who went to Ukraine to negotiate with Putin to end the war. They met with Zelensky to end the war. They are very close with Netanyahu. And then they represented Trump in peace negotiations with the Iranians. Who are these people? Right? Jared Kushner is a replacement for Jeffrey Epstein. And that all makes sense if you think about it that way. And so what are these guys trying to do? They're trying to fulfill eschatology. They're trying to position world events in a certain way that would accelerate the collapse of the world, which is what Jeffrey Epstein did. Remember, we only have at most 50% of his emails. It's possibly, it could be 2% of his emails. We know nothing about what he was doing during 9/11. In fact, you know, like you may not know this, but Howard Lutnick, who was chairman of Cantor Fitzgerald, the firm,
his firm was
that was
600
destroyed.
dead, about 1 quarter, 3,000 deaths.
But miraculously,
he wasn't there.
He and his brother were not there.
Right, and he's the current Secretary of Commerce under Trump today. Next door neighbors to Epstein. Epstein lived in Building 9. Howard Lutnick lived in Building 11.
So you know, right? Like, what a strange coincidence that is. 9/11, right? Yeah. So we can assume that there was involvement. Jeffrey Epstein was involved in 9/11. And he was involved with Libya. He was involved with the 2008 great financial crisis. So this guy was clued in on all these geopolitical events. So who was this guy, and what was he doing? And if you think about it, it's very similar to what Jared Kushner is doing today, right? Where, you know, Jared Kushner is working in finance. He's got $2 billion from the Saudis, and now he's manipulating events in the Middle East. And again, the point is to bring about the end times, which is what Tucker Carlson talked about. Right. And you know, and like you can't talk about this because Chabad Lubavitch is apparently a very sensitive topic. You know, I watched Tucker Carlson's discussion, and he didn't really say anything. Okay, I mean, like it was not that. I mean, like it was just all publicly available information about Chabad Lubavitch, and he was attacked constantly online for just mentioning Chabad Lubavitch, right? But if you want to understand how everything works, just go do an investigation about Chabad Lubavitch. Look at their eschatology. Look at Rabbi Sneerson and what he did. There's a very famous video online of Robert Sneerson talking to Netanyahu. And this is in the 1980s, guys. This is in the 1980s. And Sneerson's like, the Messiah, we have to bring him back. So let's speed it up, man.
Yeah.
It feels like every day that somebody tells me we're not angry enough. And you know what? They're fucking right. Because every day there is some new, untold horror that those of us with souls and 2 brain cells to rub together have to witness. Yesterday, I saw the pictures of the graves that Iran is digging for the innocent school children that the U.S. bombed twice. For months, we've been seeing the pictures and the testimony and the hard fucking evidence of the horrors that were visited upon children by Jeffrey Epstein and his cronies, people that the President of the United States loved to pal around with, people that he is now protecting. For months, we've listened to slack-jawed fucking half-wits talk about how, well, if you can't feed them, don't breed them. Talking about children who don't get enough to eat in this country. We're not angry enough. It's time to get angry.
Well, before the Antichrist comes, one of the things that we know from the fathers of the church is that there will be a worldwide implosion of people's morality. So, which we've seen, right? So that's happened since the 1950s. So we have that. The other part of it is, again, is the unification of the worldwide economies, because he has to be able to control people en masse. The other thing is, too, is it has to be something that the people that are alive, that in order to survive, you have to be able to plug into that economy in some fashion. That's why they talk about the mark of the beast. Well, we're almost there. The mark of the beast is the inversion of what they call the mark of baptism. So it's going to be something in our bodies that will give us access to these particular things. They say that the Antichrist will be so charismatic and he will set himself up as the Messiah, but it'll be a political type of a thing.
What about the temple?
According to the fathers of the church, at least the ones that I've read, they said the temple will never be rebuilt. And it will never be rebuilt. And the reason being is because, first of all, Julian the Apostate tried to rebuild it, and it was destroyed in the process. Christ actually put an end to the Jewish sacrifice on purpose, because the Jewish sacrifice in the Old Testament was a lead-up or a prefigurement of Christ. And so he gave them one generation in order for them to convert to Christianity. And when they didn't, he put an end to their sacrifice. So technically speaking, there hasn't been practicing Jews in 2,000 years, because the temple hasn't been around. They haven't been able to offer sacrifice. Doesn't mean that they don't pray and things of that sort, but they haven't been able to enact their primary religious duties, which is to offer sacrifice. Plus, their Levitic line, which is their priestly line, was destroyed. But then the difficulty is people tend to misinterpret the book of Daniel, which says when the abomination of desolation takes its seat in the temple. What they don't realize is that is not a reference to the Jewish temple. That's where the Protestants are getting it wrong. So a lot of the Protestants are thinking, oh, well, let's help the Jews rebuild the temple, and then that will usher in, because Christ is going to return, after they think the temple is going to be rebuilt. And then as a result of that, the temple has to be rebuilt in order for the Antichrist to put himself in there. So let's do that so that the Antichrist will come, and then that means that Christ will come, and that's kind of their reasoning behind it. Well, first of all, just getting through the years of the Antichrist is going to be brutal, so I wouldn't be pushing that. But the fathers of the church are very clear that it'll never be rebuilt, and that the reference to the abomination of desolation taking its seat in the temple is actually a reference to the Catholic Church. That there's going to be some way in which the situation in the church will become compromised to such a degree. Doesn't mean that people have to note it.
Our capable armed forces, the powerful forces of the Islamic Republic, are fully prepared to sustain at least a 6 months, full-scale, high-intensity war at the current pace.
Promises not to strike the Gulf were quickly withdrawn. There was a massive fire at a high-rise building in Kuwait after a wave of drone and missile attacks there.
Missiles rained down on the tourist hotspot. This dramatic video shows the iconic 23 Marina Tower pouring smoke after it was struck by debris from an intercepted airstrike.
But nonetheless, the war is expanding into a number of Gulf Arab nations. My tally says 12.
The war zone in the Middle East has turned into a hellscape, an inferno stretching across the horizon of Tehran as Israel targets the country's fuel sites. Israel's Prime Minister outlining the aim of the strikes: destabilise Iran's government.
The chemical roar of burning fuel reverberating across the city. Iran holds one of the world's largest proven oil reserves. Today, its facilities took hit after hit. This is Karaj, a major satellite city, 45 minutes drive from the capital. A strike on a depot here sends fire towering over the skyline. The IDF claims the infrastructure serves the Iranian regime's military forces, but they also service civilians, and they'll be the first to pay the price.
But what happened last night is quite unprecedented, as you can see behind me, and as Tehran wakes up to day 9 since the initiation of the American and Israeli airstrikes. And now I can say it's day, but it seems to be night, as the city is surrounded by a black cloud. And as you can see behind me, it's quite clear. Even when I was coming to the bureau, I saw drops of rain falling into my window, and I just looked at them. They were absolutely black. I mean, there is this high risk of being surrounded by toxic air, as last night we witnessed several fuel depots as well as refineries reportedly were being targeted across different locations.
We are waiting for the official announcement of Iran's new supreme leader, but it comes after a very busy night of strikes across.
That's what rats do. We know the new so-called not-so-supreme leader is wounded and likely disfigured. He put out a statement yesterday, a weak one, actually, but there was no voice and there was no video. It was a written statement. He called for unity. Apparently killing tens of thousands of protesters is his kind of unity. Iran has plenty of cameras and plenty of voice recorders. Why a written statement? I think you know why. His father, dead. He's scared, he's injured, he's on the run, and he lacks legitimacy. It's a mess for them.
Watch Tucker Carlson realize why the Zionist lobby, led by Norm Coleman of the Republican Jewish Coalition, pressured Trump to install Pete Hegseth as U.S. Secretary of War.
What is going on here? It's enough to make the hair on your arms go up. Did everyone know there was an effort to rebuild the third temple and the foundation stone except me? This is considered so esoteric and weird and crypto-historical and religious and kind of culty and what's Chabad, and that no one ever mentions it. But here's Pete Hegseth, football player from Princeton, going on about it in a way that suggests he's thought a lot about it. This is 2018.
And it got me thinking about another miracle that I hope all of you don't see too far away. Because 1917 was a miracle, 1948 was a miracle, 1967 was a miracle, 2017, the declaration of Jerusalem as the capital was a miracle, and there's no reason why the miracle of the reestablishment of the temple on the Temple Mount is not possible. I don't know how it would happen, you don't know how it would happen, but I know that it could happen.
What is that? That's the Secretary of War right now, overseeing the war with Iran that people fighting it are starting to say actually is about rebuilding this third temple. It's the same man.
That video from just a short time ago as Secretary Pete Hegseth left Joint Base Andrews en route over to Florida. Now he's headed to MacDill Air Force Base as this is about 24 hours.
I believe we all recognize the fact that we will reach to the kingdom. We will make it to the return of the Messiah, but this will not happen next Thursday.
He also said, secondly, that Jerusalem and the Temple Mount will be solidly in Jewish hands and under Jewish control. Luke 21:24, Jerusalem shall no longer be trodden of the Gentiles. The word trodden literally means to be walked upon, but in a desecrating way. It's like something that is sacred and people desecrate it by walking upon it and doing something that defames it or disregards it. He said Jerusalem will no longer be treated as something other than, or the Temple Mount other than what God wanted to be. Now, he says because that's going to continue to be the case until the times of the Gentiles is fulfilled. What is the time of the Gentiles all about? It's God's plan to evangelize the nations. And then last of all, what's interesting to me is it's implied, although not clearly stated, that at that time, sometime during the tribulation, the temple is going to be rebuilt. And it's at that midpoint of the tribulation that the beast will take his image and put it in the holiest of holies in this new rebuilt, restored temple, and he will command the world to worship him and Satan as God. It says in Matthew 24:15, when you see standing in the holy place the abomination that causes desolation, spoken of through the prophet Daniel, then let those who are in Judea flee. In Judea, flee. Not in Spokane, but Judea. It is then and only then that Jesus tells us the end will come. And that's when we'll see, when he puts his image in the temple, we'll see the 7 last plagues begin to unfold. And we'll also see it ending with the second coming of Christ, setting his foot upon the earth, upon the Mount of Olives.
Is Benjamin Netanyahu dead? In the last 48 hours, I have been flooded with text messages, phone calls from people in the military, from people in the White House, Joe Rogan earlier, just about 30 minutes ago, saying, what do I think? So I'm going to tell you what I think right now. The Fortress of Zion is a giant underground base right there in Tel Aviv. And it got hit by one of the ballistic missiles last June that literally exploded like 100 feet away from Netanyahu's prime minister's office and destroyed it. Then they sealed the whole area. Google imaging won't show it. And we know that at least 5 ballistic missiles have come into that area and have appeared to hit the ground. But Israel has been basically blacking that out. And other Arab countries have been arresting journalists, people that even show missile strikes in their countries. So it's very hard to get the facts in. What we do know is that for 3-4 days or so, Netanyahu hasn't been seen. Then he suddenly puts out a video earlier today that does look AI, that to me looks fake. I'm not saying he's dead. But this is what hit me when I saw this. Do you think Netanyahu's dumb enough to actually be on the surface or even the second or third level of that base that the Iranian missiles can't get in the lower areas of? It's reportedly like 10 levels deep. Do you think he would actually be above ground to be hit? I mean, the Israelis get hit every night in their major cities other than Jerusalem. But it's off limits because it's the holy city to Muslims as well. And the Israelis in general aren't seeing big casualties because they sleep in the bunkers now that they have under all the major cities. But you know, it was Netanyahu and the Likudniks that killed Yitzhak Rabin. And that's how Netanyahu stayed in power pretty much for continually for 25 years. He's been kicked out a few times and always gets back in. It'd be the perfect cover story to have the Israeli opposition that's backed by the Rothschilds kill Netanyahu and then blame it on the Iranians. We have one of the leading rabbis, come out a few weeks ago and say, we need to blow up the Dome of the Rock Mosque to build our third temple that's built on top of the second temple that Titus destroyed in 79 AD, the Roman general, under orders from Pompeo, not Pompeo of today, Pompeo of then, 2,000 years ago. And they are going to rebuild that, so he said we should blow it up and say an Iranian missile did it. So that's just an example of some of the thinking that goes on in false flag land. That's pure speculation. It's not a conspiracy theory. We don't know the facts. Netanyahu will probably pop up and probably alive. But it's completely reasonable in this fog of war to ask that question.
And as police in Pearland spent hours today looking for a 7-year-old girl who was missing. And this afternoon, they revealed devastating news. KPRC2's Corley Peel joins us live now. Corley, you just heard from officials. Tell us what we've learned.
Stephanie and Keith, this was an all-hands-on-deck situation with neighbors and multiple law enforcement agencies coming together trying to find 7-year-old Skylar Hobson, but unfortunately they say that she was found in this retention pond here behind me earlier this afternoon. Now here's a look at some scene video from not long after we learned that she was found. Police say the girl's mother called 911 around 9:30 this morning saying her daughter was missing and that she is diagnosed with autism and is nonverbal. It's unclear how she got out of the home, but police say she did leave with her iPad. Crews searched this area and found neighbor surveillance video showing Skylar walking along a sidewalk at one point, and police ultimately realized that she made her way towards this retention pond where she was recovered by HPD's dive team. Advocates say it is common for children diagnosed with autism to gravitate towards bodies of water, and we spoke with an advocate who says this is heartbreaking and that her thoughts are with this young girl's parents at this difficult time.
I just need her to know that she did her best. That she did her best. She did everything she could. I know she did, because people who have kids with autism, we are all trying our best to keep our kids safe. And so I need her not to judge herself too harshly, to know that she has a group of other autism moms who are praying for her and who support her.
And Shaletta Brundage that we just spoke with, the advocate there, she says that she does have an organization that provides specific locks and devices for families who have children diagnosed with autism. And she says that interior locks can really help in certain situations to help prevent children from wandering. But again, she says this tragedy can happen to any family and any parent with a child diagnosed with autism.
Second St. Louis rapper is killed in a matter of days. Police say one rapper was killed in a self-defense shooting last month on South 13th Street in the LaSalle Park neighborhood. And 4 days later, a 20-year-old rapper was shot and killed outside an apartment in South St. Louis. Fox News' Chad Mira reports some people think these two cases could be related.
This shooting out here on Arsenal was also caught on camera, and it shows a lot of shots being fired. Some of the damage you can still see out here today, from a windshield being busted to bullet holes in the side of this building, even a window now taped up from a shot. Several shots erupting in an alley just off of Arsenal on March 4th.
We may see a lot of bodies dropping just from this.
Breaking Generational Poverty Foundation's founder Precious Jones warns this could be a start of a violent summer. In this surveillance video, a vehicle pulls in. Just 20 seconds later, the shooting begins. 5 shell casings sitting on top of a nearby car in the parking lot today. In the car with his girlfriend, witnesses say the victim, 20-year-old Abdul Campbell, never made it out of the vehicle. Neighbors want to know why this happened, describing him as a nice, respectable young man. Speculation spreading that this could have been retaliation for a different shooting he didn't commit.
They take it from social media and take it to the streets.
Fox 2 has learned Campbell was a local rapper with ties to a man involved in this viral shooting caught on doorbell video. That shooter was released for self-defense, sparking comments, memes, and new rap songs online. Jones says social media is out of control.
This side got more kills. You know, we got to get more kills in this side. And in reality, that is not the way to go, because obviously we are losing too many of our youth.
St. Louis Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore talked to us last week after the first shooting went viral.
There's better ways and more productive ways and less destructive ways to resolve conflicts. And that's something that we as a community have to continue to work on.
Neither one of the young men deserve to die, and it's not okay. It's not okay. Like, walk away. Somebody has to be the peacemaker.
SLMPD.
How do you interpret DEI? There was the EO explicitly laid out the details. I don't remember it off the top of my head. It's okay. I'm asking for your understanding of it. Yeah, my understanding was exactly what was written in the EO. Okay. So can you? I don't remember what was in the EO. So right now, do you have an understanding of what DEI is? Yeah. Okay. So what's your understanding as you sit here today in this deposition? Well, it was exactly what was written in the EO. And so anytime that we would look at a grant through the lens of complying with an executive order, we would just refer back to the EO and assess if this grant had relation to it. Okay. But I guess I'm stepping back from your methodology strictly in terminating the grants. Do you have an understanding as you sit here today of what DEI means? Yeah. Okay. So what's your understanding of what it means? Well, it is exactly what was written in the EO. Okay, so and I don't have the EO in front of me, but that was we would always reference back to the EO and make sure that this grant was in compliance with the EO. I understand that. Okay, but I'm not asking necessarily about what was in the EO. I'm asking very specifically about your present understanding of what of DEI. Do you have a present understanding of DEI? Yeah. Okay. Can you explain what that present understanding is? Well, it's just easier for me to be referencing back to the EO. Are you refusing to answer the question? I'm not refusing to answer the question. Okay. I just feel that referencing back to the verbatim executive order was the best way for us to capture all of the DEI language. Why would learning about anti-black violence not be to the benefit of humankind?
Objection.
That's not what I'm saying. Okay, then what are you saying? I'm saying it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. You said it's not to the benefit of humankind, right? Is that what I said? Yeah. Could you read back the witness's response about benefits to humankind?
Question, why would that be DEI? Answer, it's focusing on a singular race. It is not for the benefit of humankind. It is focused on a specific group or a specific race, here being black.
You don't regret that people might have lost important income to support their lives?
No. I think it was more important to reduce the federal deficit from $2 trillion to close to zero.
Right. Did you reduce the federal deficit?
No, we didn't.
This is a history of the HIV/AIDS prison movement and its legacies in the United States. My book project narrates how activists fought the convergence of HIV/AIDS and incarceration from inside and outside prisons across the Reagan through Clinton years, and argues that this organizing holds legacies in the prison abolition movement of the 1990s to today. This is one of the grants that you or Mr. Fox identified as craziest at NEH, is that right?
That's right.
Why did you identify this as one of the craziest grants?
Because it references feminist and queer insights into prison abolition and LGBTQ studies.
Any other reasons?
No.
Examining military service from the margins, the complicated service discussion series will bring together veterans and community members to examine the experiences of service members who identify themselves as female, black, Native American, LGBTQ, or an immigrant, the dynamics, reasoning, and strength behind serving a country that does not always serve you in return. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
You and Mr. Fox identified this as one of the craziest grants at NEH?
Yes, it appears so.
Why did you do that?
Because it explicitly says LGBTQ.
Do you have any history in, like, let's say, scholarly peer review?
No.
Okay.
So, but this judgment call was made by you and your personal judgment combined with Justin's personal judgment to cancel grants based on DEI.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think it's inappropriate in any way that someone in their 20s with no experience with grants or federal government was making personal judgment calls about what grants to cancel?
Objection. No, I don't think it's inappropriate.
Okay. Why not?
Objection. I think a person can have enough judgment from reading books and being well informed outside of traditional experience to make judgment calls about obvious things like a grant that literally lists DEI in its description to know whether it violates an executive order.
I'm sorry. I'm saying books because you said books. What books would you have read that would have informed your opinion on what grants to cancel based on DEI? Or
there were no books.
But the world is heading towards a new place, a brave new world. We've never seen it before. It'll be complete chaos. And quite honestly, the goal is to kill as many people as possible because the world can't sustain 8 billion people. So you're trying to create as many conflicts as possible to reduce the population so that the population will be easier to govern, to create compliance. So again, I don't want to say too much because, I don't want to come across as conspiratorial or deranged or insane. But if you want to survive what's coming, you have to mentally prepare yourself. You have to tell yourself that maybe what I believe of the world is wrong. Maybe BRICS doesn't matter. Maybe China doesn't matter. Maybe it's all just a delusion. Maybe it's all these lies that the media has been feeding us in order to make us not understand what's really going on.
Maybe it's all these lies that the media has been feeding us in order to make us not understand what's really going on.
I don't ever want to hear another fucking word from you cowardly goddamn conservatives about how, we can't pay for SNAP and food stamps because the people on them are using it on cookies. You know why, motherfucker? Because the Pentagon reported to Congress today that the first 7 days of the war in Iran cost the U.S. over $11.3 billion fucking dollars. You know how that math shakes out in relation to SNAP? It's over 10% of the yearly fucking budget of the program that feeds over 41 million fucking people a month, most of whom are children, gone in 7 goddamn days. If you can't see the issue with that, I have to ask, is your head up your ass for the warmth, or do you just fucking like it there? We never have the money to pay for healthcare in this country. We never have the money to make sure that there's no hungry fucking kids in this country. We apparently don't have the money to make sure that people can go to school. We don't have the money to make sure that the veterans that we send to fight wars are taken care of when they come back. But apparently, we have $11.3 billion fucking dollars to burn in 7 days to start a war nobody asked for, to bomb innocent fucking school children twice, and not a single one of you spineless, feckless, rat motherfucker Republicans are batting an eye at this. Fuck war, fuck Donald Trump, and fuck you if you're supporting this.
Fuck war, fuck Donald Trump, and fuck you if you're supporting this.
Mr. President, we are losing the war in Iran. What?
Everyone out now.
Wake up, this is not the time for collab. I will not publish the files.
You will not publish them? Yes!
Come on, Donald. We have to keep moving.
This thing is so heavy, it's tremendous.
Almost there. Stay with me.